Halloween wasn't born from fear. It began as fire, a night when the living and the dead met quietly across the veil, when masks weren't for fun, but for protection. Before candy and costumes, there was Samhain, the new year of the dark. Welcome to the Night Library, a quiet place where stories drift through candlelight. Tonight, we'll wander through 30 sleepy secrets of Halloween, tales of ancient rituals, forgotten fires, and the small miracles that hide inside the world's favorite night. Breathe in slowly. Let the noise fade. Let the season speak. Fact 1. Halloween was once the new year. Before there were calendars, before clocks measured the rhythm of human life, people told time by the breath of the seasons. And for the ancient Celts, the year ended not in winter, but in darkness. They called this night Samhain, the summer's end, the boundary between light and shadow, between what is seen and what is felt. To them, this was New Year's Eve, a moment when the sun's strength died and the long sleep of winter began. But it wasn't death they feared, it was transformation. For every ending carried the seed of a beginning. They believed that during this night, the walls between the worlds grew thin, so thin that ancestors could walk home again, and time itself paused, holding its breath before it turned forward once more. Fires burned on every hill, not to chase away the dark, but to guide the returning souls back to the warmth of their kin. Villages gathered to celebrate the passing of the year and the quiet promise of renewal. When Christianity spread across Europe, Samhain was softened and reshaped into All Saints' Day, All Hallows' Eve. But in every candle we light, in every bonfire glow, the ancient meaning lingers. Halloween is not the night of death, but of beginnings born in shadow. Fact 2. Masks were worn to trick spirits. We think of masks now as play, a bit of mischief and color, plastic smiles for a night of laughter. But once, masks were not for fun. They were for survival. In the old Celtic world, the dead did not rest quietly. On Samhain night, it was said, the spirits of the departed wandered freely, drawn by the warmth of hearths and the scent of food. Most were harmless, but some were lost, angry, jealous, hungry for the life they once knew. To protect themselves, the living learned to hide. They blackened their faces with ash, wore animal pelts, and carved crude masks from bark and bone. If a restless ghost passed by, it might mistake them for one of its own. Over time, fear gave way to play. The disguises became more elaborate: carved wood, painted clay, finally silk and satin. By the Middle Ages, masking had become a festival, a night when anyone could be anyone. But even now, in the reflection of a Halloween mask, something ancient stirs. The echo of that first instinct to vanish into the night, to trick the unseen, to become shadow, before the shadows find you. Behind the laughter of costumes and makeup is an old truth whispered by firelight. Sometimes, the best way to face the dark is to wear its face. Fact 3. Trick or treat began as souling. Before candy, there were prayers. Before laughter, there were footsteps on stone. In the Middle Ages, on the night of All Hallows' Eve, the poor and the children walked from house to house, carrying small turnip lanterns to light their way. They asked not for sweets, but for soul cakes. Each cake, said the legend, freed one soul from purgatory, and in return, the visitors promised to pray for the dead of the household. It was a quiet exchange, mercy for memory, food for faith. In some regions of England, this became a ritual called souling. Groups of singers, solars, would perform hymns outside doorways. God bless the master of this house and the mistress also. When the tradition sailed to the New World, the prayers were forgotten and the gifts became candy. Souling became trick or treating, and the chant turned into the cheerful cry we know today. But beneath the laughter, the rhythm remains the same, a ritual of remembrance. Each knock on a door echoes that ancient question whispered through time. Will you share what you have for those who came before? If you're still awake, you're one of us, the quiet minds drifting through the night. I'd love to know where you're listening from right now, your city, your country, maybe even what time it is there. Please write it down in the comments. It helps me see how far this little library of calm curiosity has reached. And if you enjoy gentle stories like this, please like and subscribe. It truly helps keep the candles burning here in the Night Library. Fact 4. The first jack-o'-lanterns were turnips. Before pumpkins glowed on every porch, Halloween's guardian light burned inside something smaller, the humble turnip. In old Irish tales, there was a man named Stingy Jack, a trickster so deceitful that both heaven and hell refused to claim him. Condemned to wander the earth forever, Jack carried a coal from the devil's own fire inside a hollowed-out turnip to light his path. To protect themselves from his wandering spirit, villagers began carving faces into turnips and setting candles inside. They called them jack-o'-lanterns. When Irish immigrants brought the story to America, they discovered the pumpkin, softer, larger, easier to carve, and glowing like captured sunlight. It replaced the turnip, but not the legend. Each smiling pumpkin face is still an echo of that older fear, the hope that light, even borrowed light, can keep the darkness at bay. When you light a pumpkin tonight, you're carrying on a ritual older than nations, older than churches, a flicker of fire to remind the night that we're still here. Fact 5. Black and orange are the colors of transition. Every season speaks in color. For Halloween, that language is written in black and orange. To the ancient Celts, orange was the glow of the harvest, the warmth of stored sunlight, the fire that kept the cold away. Black was the coming night, the mystery, the stillness, the fertile darkness where things die and are reborn. Together, they formed balance, the eternal conversation between creation and decay. Centuries later, when modern Halloween took shape, those colors lingered unconsciously in bonfires, in autumn leaves, in pumpkins against moonlit skies. Advertisers would claim they chose them for effect, but nature had chosen first. Look closely. A candle's flame is orange at its heart, black at its edge. Every shadow needs a spark, and every fire needs a place to fade. That's what Halloween is. A night painted in transition, a reminder that endings are not emptiness, but the space where something new quietly begins. Fact 6. Apple bobbing was a love oracle. Before it became a party game, apple bobbing was a glimpse into destiny. Long before the first carved pumpkins, the Celts celebrated the apple as a sacred fruit, a symbol of knowledge, immortality, and love. When the festival of Samhain arrived, villages gathered to honor the harvest's last gifts, and apples became part of a quiet ritual. A basin of water was filled with floating fruit, each apple carrying a name, a wish, a question. Whoever caught one using only their teeth was believed to receive an answer from fate itself, a promise of marriage or good fortune in the year to come. Later, in medieval England, apple bobbing became a playful way for young people to divine their romantic future. A single bite from a chosen apple could reveal the name of a true love. The game crossed oceans with immigrants, and though its meaning faded into laughter, its roots still hold a whisper of enchantment, a soft echo of the night when people read their future in the ripples of water and the gleam of fruit. Tonight, when you see a bowl of apples at a party, remember once it wasn't a game, it was an oracle. Fact 7. The razor blade candy panic was never real. For decades, parents checked every candy bar, every caramel apple, every shiny wrapper. They feared that hidden inside might be a razor blade or poison, a stranger's malice disguised as sweetness. The panic began in the 1970s, spread through television news and word of mouth, and turned every front porch into a test of trust. But here's the truth. No verified case of Halloween candy tampering has ever been recorded. The myth began with isolated incidents, none involving random strangers, most rooted in tragedy or misunderstanding. Sociologists call it a modern urban legend, born from a deeper anxiety, a fear of the unknown, a loss of faith in the neighborhood that once felt safe. The story persists because it speaks to something timeless, our instinct to protect what we love and our habit of fearing the dark. So, as children wander through lamplight tonight, holding plastic pumpkins and laughing beneath their masks, remember that the real danger was never in the candy. It was in forgetting how much we still want to trust each other. Fact 8. A blue-green pumpkin means safety. On some porches, you'll see a pumpkin that glows not orange but teal. It's part of a movement born from compassion, the Teal Pumpkin Project. It began in 2014 when parents of children with food allergies wanted a way to make Halloween inclusive again. A teal pumpkin means the treats inside are not candy, but small treasures safe for every child. Stickers, toys, glow sticks, tokens of kindness wrapped in light. It's a new symbol, but it feels ancient in spirit. A modern charm against exclusion, a reminder that the heart of Halloween was never fear, but sharing. In the flicker of teal light, you can see a quiet revolution, a return to the night's first meaning, that everyone, from ghost to child, should feel safe wandering in the dark. Fact 9. Halloween spending reaches the stars. Every October, the numbers rise like the moon. In 2025, Americans are expected to spend more than $13 billion on decorations, candy, and costumes. The holiday that began as a whisper of superstition has become a vast, glowing spectacle. But money tells a different story here. It's not just commerce, it's collective imagination. Every skeleton on a lawn, every paper bat, every fake fog machine is a small act of belief, a way of saying, yes, we still want to play in the dark. Halloween spending proves something comforting. In a world that moves too fast, people still pause to decorate, to pretend, to keep wonder alive. Even the most commercial pumpkin in a store window carries the same light as the ancient bonfires of Samhain. Fire remade as electricity, faith reborn as fun. We don't buy Halloween to consume it. We buy it to feel human again, connected to mystery, to story, to the warm pulse of something older than fear. Fact 10. Costumes barely change with time. Look through the old photographs. Children from the 1920s, the 1950s, the 1990s, their costumes may differ in fabric, but not in spirit. The same figures appear again and again: witches, ghosts, vampires, skeletons. Why do we keep returning to them? Because they're not just characters, they're symbols. The witch embodies power and defiance. The ghost, memory and loss. The vampire, temptation. The skeleton, our fragile truth beneath the mask. Even superheroes and movie monsters fit the same pattern. The eternal dance of shadow and identity. Costumes let us wear what we fear to confront it gently. We become monsters to remind ourselves we are not. Every Halloween, the mirror of the world tilts, and for one night, the child in the sheet, the adult in the cape, the stranger behind the mask, all become the same thing, humans pretending to be what they already understand. Fact 11, America's favorite candy is still Reese's. Every Halloween, millions of wrappers fall like autumn leaves, bright, crinkling echoes of a ritual as old as joy itself. And year after year, one candy remains the crown jewel, Reese's Peanut Butter Cups. Simple, sweet, perfect. The union of salt and sugar, cream and chocolate, a balance that feels almost inevitable, as if it were discovered, not invented. When Harry Burnett Reese first made them in 1928, he was a factory worker with 6 children and a dream. He mixed peanut butter and chocolate in his kitchen and sold the cups by hand. Nearly a century later, his recipe still rules the holiday. Maybe it's not just the taste. Maybe it's the idea of harmony, of two things that shouldn't work together, but do. Every piece unwrapped on Halloween night is a tiny act of nostalgia, the reward for wandering through the dark, for knocking on doors, for daring to believe that the world still holds small, edible miracles. Fact 12. The word trick-or-treat is only a century old. It sounds ancient, doesn't it? A phrase carried on autumn winds from one generation to the next. But trick-or-treat, those exact words, first appeared in print in the 1930s. Before that, children begged for souls, cakes, or luck. They sang songs, performed little plays, or promised mischief if denied. When the words trick or treat finally appeared in a Canadian newspaper, they described a game, half playful, half threatening, a deal between the young and the grown. Give us sweets, and your house remains untouched. The phrase spread with remarkable speed. By the 1950s, it had become a household ritual, an incantation that opened every door in suburbia. Now, it's so familiar, we forget how strange it is that one night a year, the world agrees to an ancient bargain wrapped in modern words. Trick-or-treat is more than a chant. It's a spell that turns fear into laughter, darkness into play, and strangers into neighbors again. Fact 13. Black cats were never truly cursed. In the soft flicker of a jack-o'-lantern, a black cat's eyes catch the light, 2 golden sparks in the dark. For centuries, that glow was misunderstood. In medieval Europe, black cats were feared as witches' companions, symbols of bad luck and evil magic. Some even believed witches could take their form, slipping through the night unseen. But long before fear, there was reverence. In ancient Egypt, cats were sacred, symbols of grace, protection, and divine watchfulness. The goddess Bastet, half woman, half feline, guarded homes and mothers alike. Superstition reversed the story, but memory never faded completely. Sailors kept black cats on ships for luck. Farmers fed them first to protect their grain. Even today, a cat crossing your path on Halloween feels less like a curse and more like an ancient reminder that mystery itself walks beside us, neither good nor evil, simply watching. Fact 14. Halloween was once a fire festival. Before electric lights, before paper decorations and plastic ghosts, Halloween blazed with real fire. In Ireland and Scotland, villagers built great bonfires on Samhain night, the last flames of the harvest. The fires were more than warmth. They were a bridge, signals for the dead, beacons for the living. People carried home the embers to rekindle their hearths for winter, believing that fire blessed by the festival would guard them through the cold months. Children leapt through the smoke for luck. Cattle were led around the flames for protection. The air was thick with scent of wood, herbs, and ash, a hymn of survival. Even today, in every candle lit inside a pumpkin, there's a spark of that ancient fire. It's not destruction we celebrate, but renewal, the warmth that holds the dark at bay, and the memory of the first humans who learned to keep the night alive with light. Fact 15. Pumpkins replaced turnips for practicality. When Irish immigrants came to America, they brought with them stories of Stingy Jack and the old tradition of carving lanterns from turnips. But in this new world, the soil held a different treasure. The pumpkin was softer, brighter, vastly easier to carve. Its skin yielded to knives like butter, and its glow filled the night like a miniature sunrise. Soon, every Irish home in America traded turnips for pumpkins, and the orange lantern became a symbol of belonging, a sign that the old ways had found a new land to call home. Even the word pumpkin comes from the Greek pepon, meaning large melon, and its journey from field to folklore was as natural as breath. The pumpkin is more than decoration. It's migration turned into myth, the story of people who carried their fire across an ocean and found, waiting for them, a fruit that glowed like the hearth they left behind. Fact 16. Candy corn survived every generation. Few candies divide people like candy corn. Some adore it, others call it wax. But whether you love or loathe it, it survived longer than almost any sweet in America. Created in the 1880s by George Renninger of the Wunderlich Candy Company, candy corn was meant to honor the harvest. Tricolored, shaped like kernels of maize, a sugary celebration of rural life. Back then, candy was made by hand, poured from heavy copper kettles, each color layered one by one. It was sold as chicken feed, complete with a rooster on the box. Through wars, depressions, and shifting tastes, it never disappeared. Maybe because it isn't just candy, it's a symbol, a bright, edible memory of autumn's past, of community fairs and harvest festivals, of a simpler sweetness in a complicated world. Mocked, beloved, nostalgic, candy corn endures like the season itself. A little too bright, a little too sweet, and impossible to forget. Fact 17. Purple joined the Halloween palette late. For centuries, Halloween was painted in two tones, orange and black, fire and night, life and death. Then, in the 20th century, a third color crept quietly into the mix, purple. It began with advertisers who sought a way to make Halloween more playful, less frightening. Purple brought something new, a whisper of mystery, the color of twilight, the border between dusk and dream. In spiritual traditions, purple has always been the hue of transformation, of magic, of wisdom, of change. It softened Halloween's sharp edges, turning fear into fascination. Today, purple glows on porch lights and candy wrappers, woven between orange pumpkins and black bats. It's a modern invention, yes, but it feels ancient, as if it was always meant to be there, waiting in the shadows for its turn to join the fire. Fact 18. Mumming and guising were the first costumes. Before store-bought masks, before superheroes and ghosts, people dressed not to amuse, but to perform. In medieval villages, the poor and young would wander house to house, acting out short plays about spirits, saints, and the changing seasons. They wore rough disguises, cloth veils, soot on their faces, animal hides stitched crudely together. This was called mumming or guising. They'd recite verses, sing or tell jokes, and in return receive food or ale. It was theater for survival, the beginnings of Halloween's masquerade. Those rustic actors didn't know it, but they were inventing something timeless, the art of becoming someone else for one sacred night a year. Modern costumes are shinier, safer, made of nylon instead of shadow. But the impulse is the same, to step outside of ourselves, to meet the mystery not as who we are, but as who we might be. Fact 19. Sugar rationing once stopped Halloween. Even magic can falter when the world is at war. During World War II, sugar became a luxury. Factories shut down their candy lines, and Halloween, the holiday of sweets, fell silent. No candy, no chocolate, no caramel apples, but children, resilient as ever, found new ways to celebrate. They carved paper pumpkins, sang old songs, and paraded in homemade masks. When rationing ended in 1947, candy returned, and with it, the joy. Chocolate bars reappeared like long-lost friends, and America, weary and wounded, embraced Halloween as a symbol of normalcy, a promise that sweetness could return after the bitterest years. That's the secret of Halloween. It survives. Even when the world runs out of sugar, it finds another way to glow. Fact 20. The moon shapes our fear. Every Halloween, we imagine a full moon, white and enormous, suspended over rustling trees. But here's the truth. Full moons on Halloween are rare. The last one before 2020 was in 2001. The next will not come again until 2039. Still, the image persists. The glowing circle, the long shadows, the wolf's distant howl. It's carved into the language of fear. The moon doesn't just light the night, it shapes emotion. Its pull moves oceans, and something quieter inside us, tides of memory, dream, and instinct. Ancient people saw it as a face watching them. Poets called it a mirror of the soul. Scientists call it a gravitational constant. But for one night a year, under its indifferent light, we remember how to be small and how beautiful smallness can feel. Fact 21. Owls were thought to be witches in disguise. There is a moment in every autumn night when the world holds its breath, and from somewhere in the dark, a soft, hollow call answers. For ancient people, that sound was not comforting. The owl, silent and unseen, was believed to be a witch in disguise. Its eyes glowed like coals. Its wings made no sound. Its cry was thought to foretell death. In medieval Europe, villagers crossed themselves at the hoot of an owl, believing it carried souls to the underworld. In Rome, one was said to have flown into Caesar's palace the night before his assassination. But across the ocean, Native American tribes saw the owl differently, not as evil, but as wise, a messenger between life and death, a keeper of truth. The owl has always existed between worlds, feared by some, revered by others. Perhaps that's why its gaze feels eternal, like it's seen every mask we've ever worn. And when it calls tonight, remember, it's not a curse, but an invitation to listen to the dark and hear what it's really saying. Fact 22. Bats became Halloween icons by accident. No creature belongs to Halloween more completely than the bat. Its wings, its shadow, its dance through the night. They seem made for this season. But bats were never meant to be symbols of fear. Their story began beside the fire. Long ago, during Samhain celebrations, villagers lit great bonfires to honor the harvest and guide wandering souls. The flames drew insects, and the insects drew bats. When people looked up, they saw dark wings circling the firelight. They thought the creatures were omens, guardians, or messengers of the spirits they called home. Centuries later, Christian storytellers turned them into servants of darkness, companions of witches and vampires. But the truth is gentler. Bats are pollinators, protectors of crops, and keepers of balance. The next time one passes overhead, don't flinch. You're seeing an ancient guardian at work, still circling the flame after all these years. Fact 23. Boo comes from old Scottish folklore. Every Halloween, millions of people shout the same word, boo! It's simple, universal, and oddly effective. But where did it come from? Centuries ago in Scotland, villagers used the sound bo to startle wandering spirits on Samhain night. It wasn't meant to frighten friends, but to protect themselves, a kind of verbal amulet. The sharp B startled, the long oo echoed, a short charm of breath and sound. Language itself became a shield. By the 18th century, the word appeared in poems and plays and soon crossed the ocean with Scottish immigrants. Children adopted it, turning protection into play. Now every boo we shout is both joke and echo, a whisper of an old spell that once kept the night at bay. Fact 24. Pumpkins were once used to tell time. Before clocks ruled the hours, the fields kept their own rhythm. Early American farmers could read the land the way sailors read the sea. They knew the weather by the wind, the season by the scent of the air. And in autumn, they told time by their pumpkins. A green pumpkin meant weeks before harvest. Orange meant frost was near. Under moonlight, the color of a pumpkin revealed the sun's retreat, a slow, glowing clock counting down to winter. Some farmers even believed the brightness of a pumpkin's hue foretold the coldness of the coming season. Today, we measure time by machines, but the earth still keeps its own clock. It's written in leaves, in stars, in the quiet ripening of fruit. Every pumpkin is a reminder that time is not ticking. It's growing. Fact 25. Ghost stories were winter traditions. Before movies, before electricity, before the glow of screens and streetlights, there was darkness. And in that darkness, people told stories. Winter was the season for ghosts, not autumn. The fields slept, the nights stretched long, and families gathered by the fire to share tales of the unseen. Charles Dickens' A Christmas Carol was not strange for its ghosts. It was tradition. In Victorian England, ghost stories were as much a part of Christmas as snow or song. The boundary between life and death felt thinner in the cold. Maybe because the world outside was silent, and every sound of the house, the crack of the fire, the creak of wood, seemed like something whispering back. So when you hear a story on Halloween night, remember it's part of a much older rhythm, a winter's heartbeat echoing through the dark. Fact 26. The veil between worlds was a comfort, not fear. We often speak of Halloween as frightening, a night of ghosts, shadows, and dread, but to the ancient Celts, it was nothing of the kind. Samhain, the root of Halloween, was a night of reunion. They believed that once each year the veil between worlds grew thin enough for the dead to come home. Families set extra places at the table, left doors unlatched, candles burning in the windows. It was not horror, it was hospitality. Souls were welcomed, not feared. They came not to haunt, but to visit, to bring blessings, to remind the living of the love that outlasted time. The true magic of Halloween was never about chasing ghosts away, but inviting them in, as family. Even now, when you light a candle in a pumpkin, when a flame trembles in the night wind, you're repeating that ancient gesture, saying to the unseen, you are remembered. You are home. Fact 27, ancient Celts believed time stopped on Halloween. At midnight on Samhain, the Celts believed the world held still. For one night only, the laws of time were suspended, cows stopped giving milk, rivers ceased their flow, and fire refused to burn until the sacred flame was rekindled. It was a pause between years, the heartbeat of the universe, slowing to rest. They called it the Hollow Night, when past and future met like clasped hands. Spirits crossed over, and the living glimpsed eternity in the still air. To them, time was not a straight line. It was a circle, a wheel that stopped briefly each year to remind them that endings are illusions. Even today, when clocks strike midnight on Halloween, some part of the world seems to hush. And if you listen closely enough, you might hear it. That ancient silence that once marked the moment when everything began again. Fact 28. Even pumpkins have stars inside. Cut open a pumpkin and look within. The seeds are not scattered, but arranged in perfect spirals. Following the same pattern that shapes sunflowers, galaxies, and hurricanes, it's called the Fibonacci sequence, a mathematical rhythm found everywhere in nature, even in this humble fruit of autumn. For thousands of years, people carved pumpkins without knowing they held the geometry of the cosmos inside. Every curve, every seed echoes the order that builds stars. Maybe that's why pumpkins fascinate us so deeply, not just for their color or glow, but for what they represent. The universe folded into something you can hold in your hands. When you light a candle inside one, you're not just honoring Halloween. You're lighting a miniature galaxy, a reminder that even the smallest harvest contains the pattern of infinity. Fact 29. Haunted houses began as charity events. Before Hollywood monsters and special effects, haunted houses were built to help, not to scare. During the Great Depression, youth groups and local charities created haunted tours to keep children out of trouble on Halloween night. They decorated basements, barns, and school halls with cardboard ghosts and creaking doors, then charged a small fee, a penny, maybe two, to raise money for food drives and local aid. Families came not to scream, but to laugh together, to feel a little brave in hard times. After the 1960s, Disney's Haunted Mansion turned fear into art, and the rest of the world followed. But beneath every haunted house still beats the same purpose, to turn darkness into connection, to make people gather and feel alive inside the thrill of make-believe. Halloween has always known this secret, that laughter and fear are siblings, born of the same spark in the dark. Fact 30. Halloween's real magic is memory. Every candle you light, every mask you wear, every story whispered on a cold October night. They're not random traditions. They're threads in a tapestry woven through centuries. From Celtic fires to modern porches, Halloween has always been about remembering, not just the dead, but who we are when the lights go out. It's the one night we stop pretending to be rational and let wonder in again, We see shadows move, and instead of fear, we feel recognition. Because Halloween is not about ghosts, it's about continuity. The way firelight becomes candlelight, the way ancestors become stories, and the way every child in costume becomes a keeper of the oldest ritual on earth, to find beauty in darkness and comfort in the unknown. When the night deepens and silence falls, listen. That warmth you feel in your chest, that's the oldest spell of all. It's called memory